Hello everyone. I'm so sorry it's been so long since I've done a video, but I appreciate all of you all who have prayed for me. As you can see, I'm sitting in the car. I have had to bring my little uncle that I take care of to the doctor today. He's 86 years old. And so while I'm waiting for him in his doctor's appointment, I thought I'd go ahead and do this video. I have had a lot of questions about, is my recipe a cannibal recipe? Can I made a pot of something and is it cannibal? Can I water bath it? Can I pressure can it? So I want to address some of those questions today. And the first thing that I want to tell you, and if you don't have a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen, I would suggest that you stop the video, especially if you're new to canning, and grab that because you're going to want to refer back to this at some point. But the first thing that I'm going to tell you to do is, well, the first thing I'm going to say is if you have not subscribed to my channel, or if you're not liking my videos, I surely would appreciate it. That helps with the algorithms. It helps to get my videos out there where other people can see them. And so I'd appreciate that. But getting back to my content, the first thing I want you to do is look at the ingredient list. Now, when you're looking at the ingredient list, you're going to want to look for some things that are not cannibal in a recipe. The first thing you're going to look for is grains. Grains like barley. I know lots of soups call for barley. Rice. Flour, as in wheat flour. Or other thickeners. You do not want to do that in a canning recipe. So if it's got grains or something like that in it, then you either are going to have to leave that out and can it without it and, add that whenever you open it to serve it, or it's not going to be cannibal. I'll explain that in a minute. The other thing is pasta. Pasta's made with grains. So you cannot add pasta to your recipe. Dairy, eggs, milk, cream, butter. You could probably saute something in a little bit of butter and get by with it, but you don't want half cups of any kind of dairy. A teaspoon or a tablespoon of something to saute, butter to saute something in would be probably okay, but you just don't want to go beyond that. And then there are some spices that you don't want to add into a canning recipe. And my best example of that one is sage, because it will turn really bitter in the canning process, especially under the pressure. And I'm going to say this, that the biggest majority of your recipes that you want to can are going to have to be pressure canned, because anything that would be high acid, when you start adding a lot of ingredients together, it reduces the acid. And unless you're adding vinegar or lemon juice or something like that to it, you're going to want to pressure can those recipes. Okay, so now, how do you know, once you've figured out, once all of your ingredients are meats and vegetables, with spices, maybe some vinegar or some lemon juice or something like that in it, how do you know whether or not that recipe has to be pressure canned or water bathed? Like I just said, almost all of your recipes that have a lot of things mixed together are automatically going to need to be pressure canned. And the only exception to that would be if you were mixing multiple fruits together, where you could add lemon juice, or if you were adding like salsa. If you're canning salsa and you're mixing a lot of vegetables, but you've added vinegar to that recipe, then that one can be water bathed most likely. Depends, you couldn't do it if it's just a little bit of vinegar, but if it's got quarter cup or half a cup of vinegar in a small recipe, then that's going to be water bath. Okay, so any recipe, I don't care what it is, if it's got meat in it, you're going to want to pressure can that recipe. Now, I had a conversation with somebody in a Facebook chat earlier because they were talking about water bathing meat. Now, when you're talking about meats versus vegetables, the contaminations, the bacterias in vegetables come from the ground. But when you're talking about meat harbors bacteria that comes from the animal's intestines, plus from the soil. You're talking E. coli, salmonella, all kinds of different bacterias in meat. And when you're water bath canning, the highest temperature that you're going to get with water bath canning is 212 degrees. That is not high enough to kill those types of bacteria. When you're pressure canning, your pressure canner, there's people around me, their pressure canner will get up to 240. I don't know if I said 212 on the other one. Water bath is 212. The pressure canner is 240 degrees. So 240 degrees will kill those other bacterias. And so that's how you're going to tell if your product that you're canning is potatoes and carrots and things like that don't have any acid in them at all. That's an automatic pressure can. I had somebody to say to me, well, my granny always canned her green beans over an open fire outside. Mine did too. And they had botulism. Lots of people. I actually saw somebody this week say that they had an uncle that died from botulism, from having something that was canned improperly. So it still happens, and you don't want to risk your family by doing something that is, not some kind of proven scientific method. I don't believe all the science, but some of you all saw my videos before where I did sausage, and my dear little old aunt told me, all you got to do, Diane, is just cook that sausage, just fry it and stack it in the jars and pour that grease over it and then flip it upside down and it'll seal. Yes, it will. It absolutely will. But it's not going to be hot enough to kill the bacteria out of that sausage. And sausage also has parasites in it. And so you just don't want to do that. Put it in the pressure canner. So I wanted to say this to you too. Please, if you have questions, please put them in the comments. If you don't want to put them publicly in the comments, then look in the description under this video. I almost always put my email address there, and I do check it. If I get email addresses, I've had a few people that have emailed me, and I will address it. I will answer your emails. I will answer comments. I look at all of them. And those of you who have been on my canning page on Facebook for the last 5 years, you know that I will be all over it to answer your questions. That's the whole reason that I'm doing this, is because I want to help as many people as I can learn how to can and do it safely. And as I go through this, you'll also find that I will do videos showing using my canning foods, my canned foods, to make other recipes. I've got one coming up that I just did that uses two of my canning recipes, my canned chicken and the canned green beans, and my family absolutely loved it. So y'all be looking for that. I want to say again how thankful I am for all of you all. Y'all have just been so good to pray for me and to comment. I don't know if you can see my elbow right there. That's one of my little scratch and scrapes from where I fell this week, and my hand where it's not too bad. It's a little bruised. The worst thing that I've got right now is my shoulder on that side is very weak right now. It's very tender from my elbow all the way up into my shoulder and down into the shoulder blade where all of my weight came down on that side. I thought I would be able to do some canning yesterday, and when I tried to pick up, the arm just wouldn't allow it. And of course, I've got scrapes and bruises on both knees. And I also wanted to explain something to you. Some people have asked why you can't put the grains in your recipes. And if you just stop and think about this for a minute. When you want to ferment something, or like in the brewing process for beer, the mixture of grain, and a lot of times it's barley, but the mixture of grain and sugar, I think in Oriental countries they use rice, but grains and the combination of grains and sugar is what causes the initial fermentation process. And almost all of your vegetables, foods that you can, they almost all have an amount of sugar in them. So when you add those grains to it, over time it's going to ferment. I actually saw a person showing a jar of something that had the little bubbles in it, and it was already beginning to ferment. And I wondered if that was why her jar had started to ferment, because it had something in it that was not supposed to be there. I forgot to mention this. I said I would, and then I didn't. Some of you all will see that I have done Alfredo sauce. And the reason that you can safely do Alfredo sauce is because all of the ingredients, except the tiny little bit of spices that you add to it, are dairy. And so I'm not really mixing ingredients. I've canned milk and heavy whipping cream, things like that. That's why I can do that. And I've actually talked with a food scientist about this. And the recipe for Alfredo sauce, the base of that recipe actually came from a food scientist. So that's why it is safe. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, I said that, to look at your recipe and see if you could leave out the grains or the pasta or something like that. And one of the best ones that you will find on my channel with an example of that is the chicken noodle soup starter. I make that whole recipe, and then whenever I get ready to serve it, I put the thickener in it to thicken the soup, and I add the pasta to it. And so it saves so much time with making homemade chicken noodle soup, because I can boil pasta and mix it all together in about 15 minutes and have a big pot of homemade chicken noodle soup that's better than anything you can get out of a can. So hope this helps. So y'all just be sure, like I said, to subscribe to the channel so you'll get notifications when I've put something new up. And be sure to like and comment on the videos, because those are the things that help get the videos into the algorithms. Also, if you need canning supplies, be sure to use that 20% off for the superb canning lids. I am just sold on them. After 50 years of canning and hoping that my jars would seal. And with the Superb, I don't worry about it anymore. They all seal. And they don't come unsealed after they are sealed either. So anyway, I'm going to let y'all go now. So until the next time, God bless you all.